So this next session, we've got, I just heard we don't know which is which, we've got Matt Foreman, who's our Executive Director of Customer Service, and
that sounds ominous.
We're all friends now. And we've got Tom Nicholls, who is our Executive Director of Human Resources here. And these people are together for a reason, because people and culture and customer services go very, very closely hand in hand. So the format of this session is similar to the first one. I'm going to hand over to Matt to kick us off with talking through the TSMs relevant to this area of the business, and Tom and Matt will take you through a presentation, then we'll have a discussion around that.
Thank you for that. And thank you everybody for attending today. It's great to see so many people here so we can really listen to what the issues are and take that away and have a good think. So I'm responsible for the housing management services, the LQL care and support services to about 10,000 of our most vulnerable customers, but also our foundation around the wraparound support that we deliver to help people sustain in their homes and their tenancies and to try and maximise opportunities for people. And I'm going to talk you through 3 areas: respectful and helpful engagement, effective complaints management, and responsible neighbourhood management. Now, what I'd say is, being from the northeast, generally don't have a problem shouting up. But if you can't hear me at the sites, let me know. And I am sure this bell is for me, because I can talk quite a bit as well. So I've got no doubt that will come in at some point. So I'm going to start with respect. So in terms of respectful and helpful engagement, what have you told us? Well, I think we've got some positive news on this, but a bit of a way to go. So you told us that you think 70% of rented customers and 52% of low-cost home ownership customers have told us that you think you get treated fairly and with respect. Now, I want that to be 100%, because that should be the minimum and it costs us nothing. And we all know that. But we're positive with this. And I know Tom's going to tell you more about how we've done this. But that 70% number has gone up since last year from 59%, because we've had a real focus with our teams about how do we really start listening more to the customer and how do we start responding better to that. So that's the minimum I would expect. And I know Tom's team have done some great work in that area. The next bit around, do we listen to your views? And do we act upon them? And do we keep you informed about things that matter to you? We've done some more deep diving into this, because there's 2 possible areas for us to fix. One is, have we got engagement opportunities like today where customers can give us their views? And do we give you lots of things like the website, the newsletters, information? And the answer to that, or is it your individual service queries where we're not listening and acting and responding? And having looked into all of that, and certainly the first session reiterates some of that, it's the latter. So our focus needs to be not on really focusing on lots more engagement, because we've got lots of that. Customers are telling us, you need to listen to us for our individual service issues, because you're not listening, you're not responding, you're not acting. But that's great insight for us, so we can then focus on that, about that's where we need to go. There is one number in this I want to pull out though: low cost home ownership. So anybody who is a leaseholder or a shared owner, listening to your views and acting upon them was only 20%. There was a theme across low cost home ownership where generally, not just with ourselves, but across the sector, that's generally lower satisfaction. But that 20% is very stark. And that's something we've got to really stop and think about. And we've already carried out some work around this. So we've done a review of, for homeowners and leaseholders, what is our service? Why is it so hard to navigate it? And why do we not get back to you? And there's some work that I'll tell you about on the next slide about what we've done with that. So you told us around respectful and helpful engagement that, I'll pick out some of these, that everyone's polite and helpful. It's about the service they provide with care and understanding, and they're always really lovely. But you've also told us it's hard to get hold of people and we don't take ownership and responsibility. I think we're not really connected to the residents to see if they're happy enough, and they don't give us what I promise. So I would say that feedback is very inconsistent. It's 2 extremes. When we get it right, we do a good job. when we get it wrong, we're getting it badly wrong. That's the message we're getting from that. I want to just talk about 4 things we're doing around this area. So first thing is we've introduced 30% more capacity into our frontline neighbourhood housing management officers. So we've now got 190 neighbourhood housing leads in your neighbourhoods, trying to work with residents around the tenancy management and then try and help you to navigate other service areas. What we do know about that is that's so improvements. So every month now we're dealing with about 4,500 customer inquiries. This time last year it was 3,000. So we're building up that capacity and getting quicker as those people get used to their roles, but it's too broad of a scope. We're asking them to do too much, and we need to refocus it on what really matters to you. We've got to focus on key projects. If it's about getting the service right, we need to get repairs right. We need to get complaints right. We need to get antisocial behaviour right, and we need to get estate management right. So that's the 4 projects that we've got a lot of work going into. I know David's told you a bit about one. I'll tell you a bit more about complaints in particular in a moment. In terms of low-cost home ownership, there's 2 things I want to tell you about that. We've carried out a review of low-cost home ownership. What we know is 1 in 5 of our customers get services through something called a managing agent agreement, where either we don't own the building or we don't deliver the service. And what we've found from that is we are not good at dealing with the contract management of those arrangements. So we're putting in place a new team, which is going to be it's not a catchy title, Homeowner and Leasehold Services. And what that's going to do is be in place to really hold to account for you the managing agents and the services are not being delivered well for shared owners and for leaseholders, to try and drive the value out of the service charges that you do pay, because we want to stretch them as far as we possibly can. And we're also going to test something called tripartium. Now, I did worry I would stumble on that word, so I'm pleased it's out. Which is basically, leaseholders have told us, when I get my bill, I don't understand this, you're not giving me the right information, and we have to have lots of conversations. Now, in Manchester, we've got a different project and way of doing that through a tripartium tool that presents that differently. We're going to be testing that down in London this year to see if we can get better information to you around how we do that. I'm going to pass across to Tom to talk to you about our people.
Thanks very much, Matt. I'm Tom Nicholls. I'm the exec group lead for HR, so that encompasses people, culture, learning and development, recruitment, training, as some of you might call it, and also facilities, and so our offices as well. It's absolutely wonderful to be here and have an opportunity really to share with you some of the ways we are sort of focusing on people to address some of the challenges in driving and improving our service. It was really good to hear the questions earlier, particularly those in terms of building trust, and I hope that I can cover some of that in this session. What I would like to really sort of give you this morning through this one slide that I have and the session that I'm going to lead on is just really to give you, I think, some reassurance that we really are listening, that we are adapting what we're doing, that we're approaching everything with a growth mindset in terms of improving our approach to staffing, how we're working with our colleagues. Because, you know, if you think about L&Q, we've got tens of thousands of customers, we've got thousands of colleagues, and they're all people. And so, you know, this is a people business. That's what we're here to do, to provide services, to drive services and improve services. And we're working really hard on that. And we don't just do this in isolation. You can see some words on the board, our values. And those values really are important. They are, you know, for me, I take great pride. You met some of our recruitment team downstairs. I take great pride in recruiting people who demonstrate, who live our values. And that is about caring for our customers, caring for you. And, you know, that's something that we really drive through the business, not just in hiring people, training people, managing performance. It's a continuous process, which I'll talk a bit about in a moment. But it's all about, you know, delivering results. But it's not just about delivering results, it's about how we're delivering those results. And I know we haven't always got it right. And that's why I think it's important just to share with you some of the ways we are changing so that we are looking to improve. And we're approaching this really with a growth mindset. Really, how are we looking to make things better for you? How are we improving services? And what I want to do really is just focus on 3 areas. One is around training and development, the other is performance management, and the last one is around voice and engagement, really, and learning. And the first of those, training and development, I think that L&Q, we are an investor in people. We're also recognised as a great place to work. And yes, they're accolades, but actually more than just accolades, the Investors in People framework is a framework. It's a framework to look at how you are doing in terms of your approach to people across the organisation and how you can improve. It's to benchmark and it's to develop your plans. And that's something that we take really seriously, and it's something that we're working hard on to make sure that we do improve. The great places to work, again, it's great. You know, we've had recognition. We've been called out for the work that we've done around health and well-being, for the work that we've done in creating a better workplace for women. And I think that's brilliant. But actually, the reality is that people want to work for an organisation that is successful. And over the last 18 months, last couple of years, you know, you have seen the press, you know the service, it's not been where we want it to be. And so, you know, that's reflected in the levels of colleague engagement that we have seen. And for me, we want to be the destination of choice for top talent. I want to make sure that we can bring people in. That's why this is so important. That investment is so important, that we can not just bring people in, that we can retain them, that they can achieve their career goals and aspirations with us, because we all know that an engaged workforce actually delivers a better outcome and an outcome for our customers. And that's what we're trying to work, that's what we're working really hard on in terms of the training and development. What I want to call out, though, is some specific things that we've done over the course of the last 18 months. We've listened to feedback. We know we haven't always done as well as we should, particularly in relation to communications. You've called that out today. We've been implementing revised training arrangements in relation to clear, empathetic, respectful communications, and that's something that we've been driving really hard. We've also looked at specialist areas where we haven't done as well: housing management, complaint handling, record keeping, and we've made changes to our training in those areas as well. In terms of how people feel about the training provision that they have, it is important that we are looking at the whole professionalisation agenda as well. Within our customer service training, we've invested in the getting the right tone of voice for you, our customers. It's really important to us. But also, we've also aligned ourselves to the Institute of Customer Service. We've been working with them actually over the course of the last year. It's hot out of the oven. We actually haven't got the plaque through yet, but we've actually had our customer service training now aligned with the Institute of Customer Service. So I'm really pleased about that, because what that does, it aligns the training that we're doing with a professional standard that our people can be really sort of, they can think this is a real investment in me. The other thing on training and development is that we all have a conversation around our performance. We all have a training plan, and we've really been driving this. We've got a compulsory suite of training programs that everybody in the business has to go through. And we've been driving this, and we've actually managed to increase the level of completion up to about 99% now. So I'm really, really pleased about that. And so, the whole investment that we're making there is about driving better standards, better outcomes for you, our customers. In terms of performance management, I've talked about the fact that we are a values business. And we are driving the behaviours that we want to see. We have a behaviours framework. It isn't just, we've got these names. We've described what behaviours we want for frontline colleagues, for managers, for leaders, for our board, in fact. And that's something that's really important. Now, we're really clear with people in terms of the expectations we have for them, what we want them to achieve when we're hiring, when we're inducting new colleagues to the organisation, when we're training, when we're rewarding, and equally when we're managing performance. We have a continuous performance management cycle. I sit down with my line manager, Fiona, and I have a conversation about how I'm doing against my targets. But I also have a conversation that requires me to give prior thought in terms of how I'm demonstrating, how I'm role modelling the behaviours that we have as an organisation. And that is something that doesn't just happen with me, it happens across the organisation. And that happens with frontline colleagues as well, that same conversation. And so that's a really important piece in terms of driving that values culture for us. The other thing I want to say on performance management is that we know we haven't been good enough, and so we've set some specialist targets. We've looked particularly in terms of the sort of neighbourhood housing leads. We've looked at, you know, the tone of voice, the communication. There are specialist targets there. We've also set specialist targets for all of our managers and leaders around complaint handling. And in addition to that, as well as complaint handling, in terms of driving the completion of core training across the business, because it's that important to us. And I think the other thing around performance management that I would call out is that we know we don't always get it right. We know that our colleague base is going to be, you know, in the main, they will live our values, they will demonstrate our behaviours, but we will have challenges. So we will take that opportunity to drive, to improve and to learn and to grow. But equally, we'll need to manage performance as well. And that happens on a regular basis. And my team are supporting our management team doing that as well. The last point I just want to talk about on voice and engagement, I want to say thank you, because, you know, the changes that we've made to our training interventions, you know, it's been born out of the feedback that we've had from colleagues. We've got an action plan around things like investors in people, but it's also come from the feedback that we've got from customers. It's come where we haven't got it right. And so your contribution there has been invaluable. Equally, you know, if I think about your involvement, we have recruited to numerous roles over the course of the last year. And, you know, we have had input from residents in relation to that recruitment, you know, and that's varied from frontline roles to more senior roles. And that's helped us to make sure that we're getting the right people for the right roles. And so, you know, a huge thanks. Just before I hand back to Matt, I just want to just recap there, because just to share that we are listening, we are adapting, and we are learning, and we are changing. But we're also approaching this with a growth mindset and continuous learning. And we know, you know, it hasn't been good enough, and we're really trying to make sure that we're driving those values in everything we're doing, from the moment we hire people to the continuous performance management of them. So thanks. I'm going to hand you back to Matt.
Thank you. I can sense Neil is starting to get trigger happy with that bell. So I'm going to keep to the key points for these next two areas. So effective complaints management. I'm going to talk to you about the two measures at the bottom, which I think tell us everything. Satisfaction with our approach to complaints handling for people who rent homes is 27%. And if you're a leaseholder or shared owner, it's 10%. I don't think I need to tell you a lot more about that than those numbers. I think what we do know is we owe customers an apology for how poor that service has been. We haven't been quick enough, it's not good enough quality, we haven't really listened and answered the questions, and it makes your challenges and perception of us even harder. So there is a lot of work we have done in this area in the last 12 months. So you're telling us some people receive prompt and adequate resolution to complaints, and whenever they get raised, they get dealt with nicely and quickly. But others are saying, when I complain, nothing gets done. You need to listen and act on it, not just say you will, and you need to take us seriously. And I think that reflects those satisfaction levels. We've done a huge amount of work in this area over the past 12 months. We have increased the capacity of our complaints handling team by 40%. There's just under 60 people now in the organisation trying to deal with complaints differently to how we did it before. Everybody's been retrained. We've reviewed the compensation policy. We've put new quality checks in. So even when we do reply, we're going back and saying, was that good enough? What did we miss? What did we not miss? And organisation-wide, right through from the chair of the board to everybody who's delivering those responses, we've had a massive focus on getting through what has been a backlog of complaints for us, which has caused those poor levels of satisfaction. Now, what I would say is we don't want to be the best at complaints management. We want to get it right. But inevitably, there will be times when we get it wrong. And when they do get it wrong, we get a great opportunity to fix it. And we need to be better at fixing it when it goes wrong. What we've done so far has had some improvements. So this time last year, we had just under 4,000 complaints that we hadn't responded to. The longest going back to 2017, which is not good enough. We're now down to 1,400. And over the last 3 months, our response rate, when you combine hitting targets, have gone from 68% to 82%. So we're on that trajectory now. We've put a lot of work in, and we are starting to come out the other end, but still checking the quality to make sure that's right. And we've put in place what you'll see is more proactive tracking of the promises we make, and more holding colleagues to account if we don't deliver those promises. And we also have a group of directors who meet monthly to look at that data and look at the trends to see what we can learn to try and prevent complaints from coming in. So an area we haven't been good in, an area we've done a huge amount of work in, and I'm confident we are on an upward trajectory in that area. And then responsible neighbourhood management, which covers a lot. When you think about everything that goes into your neighbourhood, there's loads. And what I would say is we cannot responsibly manage neighbourhoods by ourselves. We have to work really closely with local authorities, police, fire brigade, community groups and residents. So the three areas I want to talk to you about from this are antisocial behaviour. So we know we get about 4,800 antisocial behaviour cases a year. And for that, the satisfaction level for people in rent accommodation is around 51%, and it's lower for people in shared ownership and leasehold of around 26%. I also know that around neighbourhoods, from what we're hearing and seeing from regional committees and other engagement we've got, is people quite like caretakers where we've got them. They do a decent job. They could do more. So we've looked at that. But grounds maintenance isn't where it needs to be. I'm pleased I didn't say it's fantastic, because I know it's not. I have listened to customers and they've told us it's not. Cleaning isn't as good as it needs to be. And communal repairs linked to the repairs project need to be better. They're the key soundings that we've listened to from residents on that. Now, the last one about making a positive contribution to neighbourhoods. As I say, we can't fix neighbourhoods and manage neighbourhoods by ourselves. It's a huge team effort. But what I do want to do a shout out for is our foundation, who I'm really proud of. Every year we invest about £7 million into communities. And that's including employability, money advice. We have grants that we give to small community groups to help to build the community to be more resilient and help themselves with some areas. Wraparound support for tenancy advice before you start your tenancy. For those who are struggling, how can we intervene and help you to maintain your tenancy? Food banks that we work with, I could go on. They do a fantastic job. I know from the feedback that we've got, that's really valued. So I think it doesn't necessarily show through on the surveys, but there's a lot of investment and time that L&Q put into that because it's important. Is what you've told us about responsible neighbourhood management is some areas, okay, quiet, friendly, thoughtful, warm, comfy, dry, flat. I've never had any problems with L&Q. If there's an emergency, we come out and clean it up. And we're looking after the environment and garden, which is well maintained. But that's not everybody's experience. We know that. Response times can be poor, and it can be inconsistent with who's in charge, which we know links to the neighbourhood housing teams and how we can try and improve that. It's messy. Repairs can be slow for communal areas, and we need to look at that. And they're not looked after as well as they possibly need to be for communal areas. So there's a few things we've done and a few things we're doing. So what we have done around antisocial behaviour is we now have a dedicated team in place to deal with more serious cases of antisocial behaviour better. We've retrained all 190 of our neighbourhood leads about what should we do to support customers with antisocial behaviour. And part of that, if I'll be really honest with you, is about managing expectations sometimes. Because quite often we get that you need to evict them. And actually eviction isn't always the answer to that. We need to work with people to see if we can sustain tenancies as much as we possibly can. And if we don't, then we will evict. And we do evictions every year. We've got a new good neighbourhood policy about how can we work with you to resolve some low-level conflict between neighbours. We've got 20 domestic abuse champions across the organisation over the past year. And we've had an antisocial behaviour review carried out by an external specialist to say, well, we think we're getting better, tell us what we're missing. So that will start to come to fruition around the autumn time about where else can we really focus. In neighbourhoods, a couple of key areas, we've carried out a caretaking review, really in detail piece of work with residents. And what that's telling us is you like caretakers, but we can get them to do more for you out on neighbourhoods than they're possibly enabled and free to do. So we're going to do that. And from that review, that will start to change around the autumn time as we roll that out with caretakers. In terms of caretaking, we've also got a new IT system, so it's quicker and easier for our neighbourhood teams to report something about grounds issues. We have brought in, we talked about contract management. Our contract management around neighbourhoods wasn't good. So we rely and work with contractors to cut grass at times and tidy up areas. We've brought in a new contracts team over the past 12 months, so 5 people focused on that. We've changed the contractor who was performing the worst in one of our core areas, and that's just settling in. So we'll have to keep a focus on that. And we've changed 5 major contractors around cleaning of areas, and they've just launched from April. So you should start to see some improvement in those areas. And in terms of the foundation, we're going to keep doing the great work I think the foundation does, but we're going to get them to refocus. What are the really important things for residents? We want that £7 million to go as far as it possibly can on the things you want it to be spent on. And that includes, how do we attract more external funding? Because I want not just our money, but I want to use that to attract other money into the areas where we've got homes and customers. So that's an area that we're focusing on with that. And we've got some good news with that we can't share yet because it's embargoed about some positive funding coming in from an external provider as well.